Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. You know, we always love getting your requests, and this one is a popular one, so thank you. Today, we're doing a deep dive on something that I think a lot of us think about: sugar management. And, don't worry, right off the bat, we're not going to get too clinical here. This isn't just going to be a diabetes lesson or anything like that. I think this is something that impacts, all of us. You sent in some excerpts from holistic sugar management, and it seems like you're interested in blood sugar in general, how it impacts our overall health, not just for those managing a specific condition.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It really is something that affects all of us, whether we always, realize it or not.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, I was so intrigued when I saw that you had sent in these excerpts because, one of the things that really stood out to me was this Ayurvedic perspective. I mean, it's not every day you hear about Ayurveda in this context, So are you ready to kind of unpack this together and see what we can learn?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think you'll be surprised by some of the insights here for sure.
Okay, so segment 1, right out of the gate, lays out the basics of healthy blood sugar for everyone. It really emphasizes this idea of balance. So we're talking diet, exercise, sleep, even stress management.
Right. And this is where things get really interesting. We always hear how important hydration is. Well, when you're dehydrated, your blood actually thickens, which makes it harder to circulate and process sugar. It's like, trying to run your car with syrup in the engine.
Okay, so that makes so much sense. I've always heard hydration, 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 but I've never really grasped the why, but that analogy really paints a vivid picture.
Exactly. It helps it click, right? And, all these little things, these small changes in these areas, they could really add up to prevent much bigger problems down the line. I mean, it's just like anything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier to keep things running smoothly than it is to fix it once it's completely broken down.
Totally. So then we get to segment 2, which dives right into diabetes management. And you can really feel the shift in tone, right? Like suddenly it's not just about making healthy choices. It's about, a more structured, personalized approach.
And that's because with diabetes, the body can't regulate blood sugar on its own the way it should be able to. So you have to be much more, on top of things. Frequent monitoring is crucial. That way you can really understand how your blood sugar is responding to, well, everything, right? Different foods, activities, medication.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me. The source material, it mentions that Ayurveda actually advises against certain foods that, we typically think of as healthy, like curd and raw salads. Why would that be?
Well, because Ayurveda recognizes that what's healthy, we put that in quotes, our patent is, what's healthy for one person might not be healthy for another. It all depends on their individual constitution and their specific needs.
Yeah.
Like for some people, curd, because of how it's fermented, it can actually mess with their blood sugar.
Mm.
And then raw salads, they're full of nutrients, but they can be tough to digest.
Oh.
And that can affect blood sugar levels too.
So it's not as simple as just, slapping a good or bad label on a food, right? It's about understanding how those foods are going to work with your specific body. I see.
Yeah.
Now, segment 3, this is where the source material really goes all in on this Ayurvedic approach. What makes it so unique, especially compared to, the conventional ways we think about this stuff?
What I find so fascinating about Ayurveda is that it really focuses on, getting to the root cause. It's not just about managing the symptoms. It's about figuring out, okay, why is your blood sugar out of whack in the first place? And then, addressing those underlying imbalances.
Yeah. So instead of just taking a pill to lower your blood sugar, it's like Ayurveda wants to figure out why it's high in the first place.
Right, exactly. And, Ayurveda, it takes into account this interconnectedness. It considers the mind, the body, the spirit, the whole picture. It's a truly holistic approach.
And I can see how that would appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But is this saying, ditch conventional medicine altogether?
Oh, not necessarily, no. It's more about, understanding all of your options and then picking what works best for you.
Yeah.
Right. So Ayurveda can definitely be a complementary approach. It can work alongside more conventional treatments. It's about having more tools in your toolbox, I guess you could say.
It's like having, instead of just a hammer, you have a screwdriver, you have a wrench, you have options.
Right.
And speaking of options, the source material, it highlights that Ayurveda, really takes this personalized care approach. It really does sound like a tailor-made approach to health.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It recognizes that we're all different, right? We all have different needs. So a one-size-fits-all treatment plan just isn't going to cut it for everyone. Ayurveda, it takes into account your unique constitution, your lifestyle, even your emotional well-being. And then from there, you can create a truly personalized roadmap to better health.
Okay, so we've got this idea of personalized care, treating the root cause, this holistic approach, taking the whole person into account. Now, even with all this focus on Ayurveda, the source material does offer some universal tips, things that apply to everyone, regardless of whether they're, really into Ayurveda or not. And these are in segment 4.
Yeah, exactly. There are some fundamental things that everyone can benefit from, whether they're diving deep into Ayurveda or just looking for some simple ways to support healthy blood sugar.
So what are some of these universal gems? Because I know you mentioned in your notes that you were really curious about these, how to actually incorporate these tips.
Well, first and foremost, it reiterates the importance of hydration. But let's take that a step further, okay? Imagine your blood vessels are like a network of rivers.
Okay, I'm listening.
When you're dehydrated, those rivers, they get shallow. They get sluggish. It makes it harder for everything to move through, right? Nutrients, hormones, the things that regulate your blood sugar, they can't flow as easily.
Wow. Okay, that's a really great visual. So staying hydrated keeps those rivers flowing, keeps everything moving where it needs to go.
Exactly. And then when it comes to what we're putting in those rivers, well, the source material, it's not shy about calling out sugary drinks as a major culprit.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to understand why that is, on a deeper level.
Yes. I mean, we all know that sugary drinks aren't good, right? But I think a lot of us don't really understand, the why, what's the actual impact, moment to moment on our blood sugar.
Think of it like a sugar bomb. It hits your system all at once, and it sends your blood sugar soaring way up. And your pancreas, that has to work overtime to try and deal with all that sugar. And over time, that can lead to insulin resistance, and that is a big factor in developing type 2 diabetes.
Oh, okay. So it's not just about avoiding a sugar rush. It's about, protecting our pancreas and preventing damage down the road.
Exactly. And it's not just soda and juice we have to think about either, right? I mean, even some of those drinks that sound healthy, like smoothies, sports drinks, they could be loaded with sugar too.
It's all about reading labels and making, conscious choices. Okay. Now, portion control. The source material also talks about that. Is that really as impactful as it sounds?
Oh, absolutely. Even healthy foods, if you eat too much of them at once, it can still cause your blood sugar to spike.
Yeah.
It's all about finding that balance, right?
So it's not just what you're eating, but how much you're eating. That old saying, everything in moderation, maybe it really does hold true.
Oh, it really does, yeah. And along with what and how much you're eating, the source material, it also emphasizes the importance of staying active. And you don't have to think about this as like, grueling workouts. Think of it more as giving your cells a helping hand.
Oh, okay. I like that. So how does movement help our cells? How does that all work?
Well, when you move your body, your muscles are using glucose for energy,
Right.
right? And that helps clear the sugar out of your bloodstream, which helps regulate your blood sugar levels. It's like your muscles are these little sugar vacuum cleaners.
I love that. So every time I take a walk or do some yoga or whatever it is, I'm basically giving myself a little workout. I'm helping them manage my blood sugar.
Exactly, exactly. And the last universal tip here, and this one's important, is to listen to your body. And this is so important because everyone's different, right?
Huh.
What might make one person's blood sugar spike, it might not even phase another person.
Right.
We all have these unique responses.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we get better at actually listening to our bodies?
It starts with paying attention to how you feel after you eat different foods, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel energized or sluggish? Focused or foggy? Do you have cravings, mood swings? Your body is constantly giving you clues. You just have to tune in.
So it's like our bodies are talking to us in a secret language, and we just have to figure out how to understand it, right?
Exactly, yeah. And the more you pay attention, the better you'll become at understanding your body's language. You'll know what it's saying.
This is all so fascinating. I feel like we've only just, dipped our toes in the water here.
We have, but that's what makes it so interesting, right? There's always more to learn and explore.
And I'm definitely ready to dive deeper. All right, so we've talked about the foundations, like what healthy blood sugar looks like for everyone. And we've even gotten a little taste of this unique Ayurvedic perspective. But I'm curious how we actually take those principles, those Ayurvedic principles, and use them in our day-to-day lives.
Well, the good news is going Ayurveda, it doesn't have to be this huge, life overhaul.
Okay, good. Because I'll be honest, the image of like me chanting mantras at sunrise and sipping herbal tea, it sounds kind of cool, but it's not exactly realistic for, my average Tuesday morning.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's about finding what works for you. Yeah. Right? It's about those small changes that you can actually stick with. It's about weaving it into your life, not, turning your whole life upside down.
Okay, so baby steps. What's something like super simple that someone could start doing today to bring a little bit of Ayurveda into their life?
Well, one of the foundational things in Ayurveda is this concept of Dinacharya. Basically, it means having a daily routine. It's about creating this rhythm for your day.
Structure over chaos. I like it.
Yeah.
So what does that look like, practically speaking?
It can be as simple as waking up and going to sleep around the same time each day. Even on weekends, consistency is key. Our bodies really thrive on that.
That makes sense. I know I definitely feel better when I stick to a regular sleep schedule. But what about people who aren't, morning people? Is there any wiggle room within this Dinacharya thing?
Of course, yeah. It's not about being rigid. It's about finding a rhythm that actually works for you.
Mm.
Even something as simple as taking 10 minutes each morning to just breathe or meditate. That can make a huge difference.
Okay, see, that feels a lot more manageable. And what about diet? It seems like Ayurveda puts a big emphasis on food.
You're absolutely right. In Ayurveda, food is medicine. And it's not just about what you're eating, but how you're eating it and when.
Okay, so tell me more about this Ayurvedic approach to eating.
Well, first and foremost, Ayurveda encourages mindful eating. Really pay attention to your body's signals. When are you hungry? When are you full? Slow down, savor each bite.
So no more like zoning out and snacking in front of the TV.
Yeah, exactly. It's about bringing that awareness back to the act of eating, really listening to what your body needs.
I see. That makes sense. Are there any other like Ayurvedic eating guidelines that could be helpful for our listeners?
Ayurveda actually suggests eating your biggest meal at lunchtime. That's when your digestion is at its peak. And it also favors warm, cooked foods over raw and cold foods. They're easier to digest.
Interesting. So maybe hold off on those salads unless they're, lightly sautéed.
Exactly. And remember, spices aren't just for flavor. They play a really important role in digestion, too.
So I can feel good about adding that extra turmeric and ginger to my meals.
Oh, absolutely. Turmeric especially. It's really well known for its anti-inflammatory properties, which can help with blood sugar balance as well.
So you've got routine, mindful eating, spicing things up in the kitchen. What else can people do to, weave a little bit of Ayurveda into their day?
Another thing that Ayurveda really emphasizes is the importance of self-care practices. Things like, abhyanga.
Wait, say that again. Afyanga?
Yeah, abhyanga. It's a warm oil massage. It's so nourishing, so calming for both your mind and your body.
Ooh, that sounds luxurious. I'm into it.
Right. It's a great way to reduce stress. And we know that stress, that plays a huge role in blood sugar management.
Stress is like that silent saboteur, right? Sneaking up on you, just wreaking havoc. So, abhyanga to the rescue.
Exactly. And, don't underestimate the power of those simple things, like getting enough sleep, spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones.
It all comes back to that holistic well-being thing, right? It's
Right.
not about just fixing one thing. It's about taking care of all parts of yourself.
Exactly. That's the beauty of Ayurveda. It's really this whole framework for living in harmony with yourself and with the world around you.
It does sound pretty peaceful just thinking about it, but life gets busy. How can people make these Ayurvedic practices stick when they've got work, family, all those everyday things pulling at them?
The key is to start small.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself. You don't have to do everything all at once.
So maybe like pick one thing, master it, and then add something else on.
Right, exactly. Maybe start with that simple breathing exercise in the morning, or swap out that evening snack for a cup of herbal tea.
Yeah, those are manageable changes. No huge, upending your entire life required. But I am curious, the source material, it talks about this personalized care thing with Ayurveda. How does that actually work, in real life?
That's where an Ayurvedic practitioner comes in. They can help you figure out your individual constitution, which is known as your dosha. And then based on that, they can make recommendations that are specific to you, whether it's diet, lifestyle, or other practices.
Wait, dosha? What's a dosha?
So your dosha, it's like your unique mind-body type. There are three main doshas: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And each one has certain characteristics and tendencies. Like Vata types, they tend to be creative, energetic, but also prone to anxiety. Pitta types, they're more focus-driven, but they can be a little fiery. And Kapha types, they're typically grounded, nurturing, but sometimes they struggle with lethargy.
So it's kind of like a personality type, but for your health?
Yeah, exactly. And knowing your dosha can really help you make choices that support your unique needs and keep you in balance. An Ayurvedic practitioner can help you figure out your dosha and create a personalized plan that really addresses your individual imbalances.
So it's like A customized health plan?
Exactly.
Mm.
They take everything into account, your physical tendencies, your emotional tendencies, your lifestyle, any health conditions you might have. And then they put together a plan that truly resonates with your unique needs.
I see. So it's not a one-size-fits-all thing at all. It's about finding what works for you.
You got it.
Okay, so we've got the basics of Ayurveda, this holistic approach, the importance of Dinacharya, and personalized care based on your dosha. It seems like a lot of it boils down to, really tuning into yourself, your own body's unique needs.
Absolutely. And that's a journey that can really benefit everyone, whether you're dealing with, specific health concerns or you're just looking to feel your best.
Speaking of specific concerns, let's bring it back to the reason you requested this deep dive in the first place, managing your blood sugar. We talked about those universal tips from the source material, but are there any specific Ayurvedic tips that could be helpful in this area?
There are.
Yeah.
And one that really stands out in the source material is this concept of ama.
Ama. What's that?
Ama is basically, undigested food, metabolic waste, that kind of stuff that can build up in your body. And in Ayurveda, they believe that that buildup can contribute to a lot of health issues, including blood sugar imbalances.
Oh, okay. So how do you avoid that ama buildup?
Well, it comes back to a lot of what we've already talked about, right?
Yeah.
Eating a healthy diet, being mindful about how you eat, supporting your digestion with spices, managing stress. All of these things can really help keep your digestive system running smoothly and prevent that accumulation of ama.
So it's not just about avoiding sugary foods, it's about supporting the whole process, the whole digestive system.
Exactly. And, the source material, it actually specifically mentions bitter melon as a food that can be helpful in managing blood sugar.
Bitter melon. What is that?
It's a type of gourd. It's used a lot in Asian cuisines. It has a bitter flavor, like the name suggests, but it's supposed to be really good for regulating blood sugar.
So maybe something worth adding to the grocery list. Now, you mentioned in your notes that you were interested in incorporating some of these Ayurvedic principles into your own life. Are there any specific practices that you're thinking about trying?
Yeah, that Abhyanga, the warm oil massage, that really stood out to me. Sounds super relaxing, and I could definitely use a little less stress in my life.
I'm with you. Maybe we should try it together.
We should. But, one thing to always remember, it's a good idea to talk to a qualified Ayurvedic practitioner before making any big changes, especially if you have any health conditions. They can really help you personalize this stuff and make sure it's safe and appropriate for you.
Good point. It's always best to get advice from, someone who knows what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And ultimately, Ayurveda, it's all about empowerment, right? It's about giving you the tools and knowledge to take control of your own health.
And that's what we're all about here on the deep dive. Okay, so we've really covered a lot, haven't we? I mean, we started with the basics of blood sugar. We dove into this whole world of Ayurveda and how we can use it. But, now I think it's time to kind of bring it all home, right? Distill everything into something you can actually use. Some takeaways.
Yeah, absolutely. We've given you a lot to think about, but it's important to remember, even small changes, those can make a big difference.
That's right. It's not about overhauling your whole life overnight, right? It's about those little tweaks that you can stick with, for the long haul.
Exactly. And when it comes to managing blood sugar specifically, there are a few key areas that the source material, it really highlights, again and again.
Okay, let's get into it. So first up, hydration. This is a theme that keeps popping up throughout the source material. Why is it so crucial for blood sugar balance?
Well, think of yourselves as these little factories, right? And they're working hard to process sugar. If those factories are dehydrated, they just can't function as well. Staying hydrated helps those cells do their job, which keeps your blood sugar levels in check.
So it's about keeping those cellular factories well-oiled, humming along smoothly. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of things that can really throw a wrench in those factories, the source material, it calls out sugary drinks again. We touched on this before, but it's worth repeating.
Yes, because even when we know they're bad, it's easy to just grab a soda or a juice when you're thirsty. So remind us, why are those sugary drinks so bad for our blood sugar? What happens?
It's like you're mainlining sugar right into your bloodstream. You get this huge spike in blood sugar, and your body has to work overtime to bring it back down. And over time, all those spikes and crashes, well, they can lead to insulin resistance. And that increases your risk of type 2 diabetes.
So it's not just the immediate sugar rush, it's the long-term effects, setting yourself up for problems down the road. All right, next up, portion control. Does it really matter as much as they say?
Oh, it really does, yeah. Even healthy foods, if you eat way too much of them, it can still make your blood sugar spike.
Right.
It's about being mindful, paying attention to your portions, and listening to your body. When are you full?
Right. It's not about deprivation. It's about finding that sweet spot. You're satisfied, but not, stuffed.
Exactly. And along with what you eat and how much you eat, the source material talks a lot about staying active. And again, you don't have to think about this as some crazy intense workout. Just moving your body regularly can make a difference.
Right. We talked about how exercise helps your muscles use glucose for energy. So it's like clearing out the sugar from your blood.
Exactly, yeah. Find something you enjoy and do it. Walking, dancing, swimming, whatever it is, every little bit helps.
Okay. And finally, this one seems simple, but it's probably the hardest one to do. Listen to your body. When it comes to blood sugar, how do we actually do that? What does that even mean?
Well, just pay attention to how you feel after you eat different foods. Do you feel energized, sluggish, focused, foggy? Does your mood change? These are all clues your body is giving you about how that food is affecting your blood sugar.
So it's like we have to become detectives of our own bodies. We have to figure out what all the clues mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, there's no one right answer, right? What works for one person might not work for another. We all have unique responses. So you have to figure out what works for you.
This has been such a great deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about blood sugar. But before we wrap things up, let's bring it back to Ayurveda. You mentioned wanting to personalize this information, figure out how to make it work for you. So what's one Ayurvedic principle that you think you can start using today?
Honestly, I think I'm going to try the Dinacharya thing, getting into a better routine. Even little things like waking up and going to bed at the same time each day. Or maybe just, taking a few minutes to do some breathing exercises in the morning.
That's a great goal. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I also want to try to be more mindful about my eating. Pay attention to how different foods make me feel and, adjust my portions if I need to.
Those are great steps. And remember, this is just the start of your journey. There's so much to learn when it comes to Ayurveda and managing blood sugar.
You're right, yeah. The important thing is to keep learning, keep trying things out, and keep listening to your body.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of sugar management. We hope you found it helpful, maybe even a little inspiring. Remember, you have the power to take control of your health. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay well.